Which one is it? I don't know. Moderator, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Divine.
Yes. I don't know. It's going to be very, I don't know. If you guys are not going to respond, then I think I'll be having like a hard time communicating. So exactly for Excel, right? So like I'm saying, I'm just asking, based off on being a postgrad, I don't know exactly, should I start off from the basics or should I just give you guys something that's going to be particularly important for you as a postgraduate student?
I think you can start off with the basics and then just take us through everything.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Okay, I'll be sharing my screen then. Unfortunately, we don't have like a lot of time, so I will be going through the basics and I'll try as much as possible to cover entirely the most important things because this session is going to span all the way from Microsoft Word till PowerPoint. So I believe most of the things that are fundamental to Microsoft, I'm going to exclude that. I will be explaining how to navigate the home tab, inside tab, because I believe you're going to get every other thing as you attend other sections. Particularly for Excel, I'm going to focus mostly on the important things that make Excel Excel. So please bear with me because of our time. I will try to, try to incorporate most of the important things in this section. And at the end of the section, if you do have any specific questions or you'd like me to reiterate a specific aspect, please do contact the moderator and send in your questions to the RCD component. They're going to forward those questions and I'm going to address them in our next section. So let me just quickly jump into what we have for today. Can everyone see my screen? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, Mr. Divine.
Awesome. So for today in our Excel, I'll be going through how to clean your data and then the fundamentals to Excel. As usual, we already know that Excel is Microsoft Suite package, right? That we use to perform basic calculations, even up to the advanced level, and also use it to sort out our data to how we want. And because I'll be teaching Excel, I won't focus on how to type, on how to insert this and insert that, because I would like to believe you're going to get those information in other sections, including Microsoft PowerPoint and Word. But for here, either way, I'll go through the basics and I'll guide you through on how to navigate your Excel background. By default, because Excel doesn't deal with lines and paragraphs, we have what we call sheets, cells, and columns. So I'm going to start from the first tab. So in Excel, in our home tab, this particular row here is called the row headers, right? And these are the column headers. And then each of these individual cells here, like I said, individual, they are all stand alone and they are part of what makes up your entire sheet. And then here we have our sheet one and our sheet two. So in Excel, when I mean that these cells are individual means that whatever I type into this cell does not overlap into the next cell. It stays on the same cell that it is until I decide to merge the two cells. So each of the individual cells, they're all independent of each other and you can use them as references to perform calculations. Another important thing that we have here is our name column. We call this our name column, right? This allows you to navigate the cell of your choice. Assuming you're working with a large number of data, if I'm looking for cell G5 or G20 something or G105, I don't need to scroll all the way down to go look for my cell. I can just go ahead and tap into my cell column, G25, and automatically Excel is going to take me there. Next thing that we have that is important that I would like you guys to know, obviously, apart from our row headers and our column headers, we also have our basic. These tabs here are all fundamental to Microsoft packages. You're going to find it in Microsoft Word, which is your home tab, your inside tab, page layout, and so on and so forth. But then your formula is obviously excluded. Your automate, your developer, and your help is also fundamental. So those every other thing here, I won't be going into them in details on how to use this particular tabs. I will go into them when I need to reference to something that is important throughout the section. In Excel, because each of these cells are independent of each other, right? So we need to treat each cell as an individual. For an example, as you can see here, I have developed just, this is just random data that I've developed by myself. So I can use to facilitate this class. So in this data, right, I have the first column, which is my employee ID. And then another thing that we have is this formula bar. This shows you exactly what is in a cell throughout Excel. So when I click on this particular cell, I can see exactly what is written on it. I can also make changes to days if I want to, if I don't want to go into the cell. But either way, so when I click on the first cell, I can see my employee ID. This here indicates to me, obviously, as you can see here, we can't see entirely all the information on this cell because by default, Excel allows you to type in data, maintaining the default cell size and cell width. So it is up to you to adjust those things as you deem fit. We do have two choices on how to adjust the cell. We can wrap a text. Okay, before I go further with that, we can choose to wrap the text to fit into the cell. So wrapping a text is something that we tell Excel to, you know what, I know my cell is very small. Please adjust my text to fit my cell. So when I want to wrap a text, I can click on this icon here under the alignment section. When I click on this icon here, I can now wrap my text. As you can see, when Excel wraps my text, you can see that this employee ID, the E from the employee is still has been shifted to the next line and doesn't look good. So what would I rather do? I'd rather adjust my cell. Another way of doing this is using what we call cell formatting. So we'll go to the formatting of cells here. We can do adjust our column. So automatically what happens, Excel adjusts the column to fit the text. So I'm going to undo this. Another way of doing it is when I go to the column header, I move to the edge of the column header and I double click. Ultimately, I'm still doing the same thing that I've just done now. So as you can see now, so entirely in Excel, you always need to consciously adjust your cells, format your cells, and all those things. And either way, you're going to be hearing these words as you go through the sections. Formatting of a cell is just applying specific cell styles to a cell. And then, like I'm saying, I'm going to be using the word cells because in Excel, we're working with cells. It's not going to be lines and paragraphs. And then the next thing I need to do is I also need to adjust my column headers here so I can see entirely what is on my text. Another important thing here that I need to explain is these hashtag screens. In Excel, whenever you see this kind of information and it's all written in hash, it means that Excel can display entirely the text. It means I still need to adjust my column to fit my text. So how do you do that? Something is applicable, double click, and then adjust your column to fit your text. Or like I already told you, you can just click on the cell, column header, go ahead to your cell styles, cells and go to cell formats and then click on auto fit column width. With that, you can now adjust your column to fit your cell. So the most important thing about analyzing data and cleaning your data is in Excel because you can have a lot of redundant things. And most of the times when you get documents in Excel, they are not clean or already arranged for yourself. You need to go ahead and do adjust your columns, fix up your text to look proper before we go ahead and apply any formatting. So far right now, what we have really covered is on how to adjust our cells. If you want to type in any information into a cell, you just click on the cell that you want and then type in your information. So are we following? Any feedback? Someone has a question.
I see there's a hand that is raised from Miss Richa. Can I just allow her to speak? So you may speak, Miss Richa. I've enabled your mic.
Thank you. I'm trying to follow on my Excel, but then it seems that my Excel doesn't look like your Excel. It sounds stupid.
Um,
Y-
we, which part of what are you trying to follow through that doesn't it allow you to do that?
no, it's like when you go through the cells and the stuff, it's I open it up and I don't have the same options as what you have. So does it mean that I don't have the same version than what you have?
First of all, yes, it might mean that you don't have the same version, but apart from that, Excel is redundant. They have a lot of changes, but still, if you're using the old version, you should be able to see most of the things, but they might have a different header or different with title name. So I would advise that you just go ahead on the UJ website and download the Outlook, the one we're using currently. You're going to get the Microsoft 365. It is way much better than the one you probably have.
And I will get it.
For free, yes.
Okay.
If you're a registered student, yes, you're going to find it under, when you go to your Ulink, you go to Tools, you go to Softwares, you're going to find Office 365. When you click on the tab, it's going to ask you to sign in. Once you sign in, you can download the Office software into your laptop. And then before you actually do that, you need to uninstall the old one and then install this one. Then you're going to have exactly this Excel that I'm using. Is that fine?
Okay, I'm a staff member, so I will have to try and find somebody. Okay.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
So I'm going to continue off with the class. And then entirely, so far, what I've actually done is what arrange my data because I want my columns and my column header to look. They don't want them to look shoddy. They must look like I know how to use my Excel. Apologies once more, like I said, because I'm not going into details on entirely what you find on the clipboard, your fonts and alignments. Like I already said, most of those things they're going to cover it when you're going into details into other Microsoft packages. And then another important thing that I want to emphasize before I go ahead is this particular option here. Because in Excel actually entirely all Microsoft packages allows you to copy and paste in different formattings. So for Excel, I'll be talking about this particular clipboard here. For an example, when I click on this particular title header, which is my emails, I can go ahead and apply a cell style. When I apply a cell style, as you can see now, this is called a formatting. I've just changed how my entire cell looks like. I've applied a light shading and then a light border. So if I want to apply the same formatting to another cell, all I have to do is click on the same cell here, go to my clipboard, click on my format painter. When I click on this, I can go ahead and highlight every other cell that I want to have the same formatting style. As you can see, it automatically happens. The rest of the cells now have my formatting style. This formatting painter, you can use it in any of the Microsoft packages. So when you're done applying a specific formatting to a cell, you don't need to apply it randomly to different cells. You can just click on the formatting painter, go to the particular cell that you want to apply the same formatting and click on it. The same thing is applicable. If I was to apply a formula, I can still use the copy and paste and do that. But either way, we're going to go into that as we progress in the class. As we're still on sorting out our data. Another thing that I want us to have is learn today is on how to actually sort out our data. For an example, applying custom filters, sort and so on and so forth. Because we work with a lot of files in Excel, we need to add most of the time, let's say you're working with student marks, attendance register, or your own personal assignment as a student, you need to sort out your data, obviously. And then for an example, if we have a question that says, I need to find out, as you can see here, I created a random titles, employee ID, first name, last name, department, hire date, salary, performance rate, and email address. If we want to sort our data to display only people that are in marketing department, how do we do that? I click on my column header. Remember again, guys, in this Excel, it's very important that you understand how these things work, like your cells and your column header, because I need to sort out this particular column. If I click on a cell and click on sort, it's going to be applicable, obviously. So it's going to ask me, do I want to expand the selection? But because I want to apply a custom filter, what do? I click on what? My column header. I go to my editing section here. I click on what? Sort. And I go to my filter. automatically you're going to find a drop-down arrow on the column header, title header, indicating that what we have applied our filter. When I click on these, I can go ahead and do what? Untick the select all. Now I'm going to choose only marketing. When I click on OK, can you now see? Excel is going to sort my data to show only employees that are what? Under the marketing department. Something is applicable. It doesn't matter which of this information you want to choose. Do you want to choose both marketing and finance? It's also going to show you all information pertaining to what? Marketing and finance. That is how you filter what? Your columns. The next thing I have is what? Sorting our columns. This is also another important thing. By default, you might have an Excel document, and there's something that the term we usually use when we say cleaning of data. Most of the time in Excel, when someone says clean out your data, it means we need you to sort out your data. And it's always advisable that your data is either in ascending order or descending order. So you can either sort out, if you're sorting out a group of data here, as you can see, it is best that you sort out with what? With last names. We don't sort out data with first names. We sort out with what? Last names, because last names is actually alphabetically ordered in how we usually say people that have their surnames between A and G, between G and F, and so on and so forth. So when I click on this particular icon here, I'm just going to click on Excel, Martinez. I'm going to go to same thing to my editing tab. Click on this. I'm going to click on what? Sort from A to Z. What happens? Excel automatically what? Highlights my entire data. I don't know why it didn't even ask me for that option of do I want to expand my selection? But because maybe I've already created this into a table. But usually you're going to have a question that says, do you want to expand the selection? You only get that kind of error when you haven't selected the entire data, when you've just clicked on one cell. But either way, as you can see now, Excel have sorted my data to just start off from the first name, which is Anderson, first last name, obviously, which is A. And then you can see here when I scroll all the way down, Wilson is the last surname, and everything is now in alphabetical order. And then the next thing that we have, so this is how you sort out your data. Something is applicable. I can just click on this and just choose to sort it from Z to A. Something is applicable. It's going to just reverse the sorting. And then we also have custom sorting. This allows you to sort data in criteria. For an example, when I click on this and I go to what? Custom sort. I want to sort out my data using what? Last names. And then I can click on this, what we call here add level. This allows us to do what? To add an additional criteria of how I want my data to be sorted. Apologies for the noise. When I click on this then by, I can choose, for an example, I can choose by performance rating, and I can now choose from the highest to the lowest, which is Z to A. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to sort out my data. I'm telling Excel, please sort my data out. Please, I want to see people that what? I want to see their names from the first name, which is obviously in A, and I also want you to sort that by what? Their performance rating. I can go ahead and still add an additional level. I can sort it by what? Higher date, oldest to newest. As you can see, automatically what happens here, Excel has sorted out my data from what? Last name up until their performance rating, up until what? The higher date. So obviously this will look insane because I've included an additional criteria to my sorting. So as much as you want, however that you want, you can always sort out your data using the custom sort, however you prefer, depending on the required that you're trying to perform on your Excel document. So I'm just going to undo this. And another thing by now you should be used to is how using the undo button. This allows you to revert back to the previous action that you have performed if you're not sure of what you have actually done. So throughout your work, if you didn't save your work and you made a mistake, you need to undo. It saves you a lot of stress. And then that is just that for sorting out our data. So entirely we have all this looking at us in a clean way. Next thing that I need to have is how to format our cells. As you can see here, how do you apply cell formattings? Just click on a cell and go to your cell styles. And you're going to find what? Any of these are cell formattings. I need to apply the heading 1 style, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, I can also define a new cell style if I want to. I can also apply a theme cell style. And by default, I already told you guys how the formatting painter. I can click on these and I can highlight the rest of my cells and they're going to have the same formatting style. So that is entirely on how to sort out your data. For now, I will still take us through and more advanced ways of sorting out data, conditional formatting and all that. But as of now, I'll be going further into what we have because of our time. The thing that we have today that I want to go through is, because as of now, we've really spoken about data in itself, which is like our information. And most of the time too, because we use Excel for calculations, we also need to talk about how do we perform calculations. In our next session, I'll be going into details on how to use your pivot charts, your graphs, and how to create a database. Those are much advanced level. But for now, I also stick to those doing the functions. So does anyone have any question before I move on to what I have for today? Does anyone have any questions? No questions so far. And then just before I go ahead, I also want to use this option here, which is find and replace. So usually, let's say you have an entire data, right? You're looking for a specific word, student number, student name, specific letter or whatever it is. You just go ahead and click on your find here. You're going to click on find and you're going to look for what exactly you're looking for. Let me just try and look for just anything. I'm just going to type in 10047. As you can see, Excel is going to highlight entirely the name that I'm looking for. If I want to use the find and replace, I can choose with what? Sorry?
Sorry, there is a question.
Yes.
I see there's a hand up from Maria. Let me just enable her mic. Yes, her mic is on. Yeah. You may speak, ma'am. Hello. I've enabled your mic. You may speak. Can you hear Maria, everybody? Sorry.
No, I can't hear either.
Yeah, I can hear you, but I have enabled her mic.
Okay, I think I'll just proceed and
Yeah, I'll just probably suggest if she or he may type her question on the chat box.
yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And then lastly, before I move on to basic calculations, we also have something we call conditional formatting because we're still working with data, right? Let's say I have a spreadsheet. For an example, I'll use this for staffs. When you're working with spreadsheets and you obviously you have student downloaded their report for a particular words assessment on ULink on Moodle, right? And then sorting out those data might become quite tiring. It's only when you have the submission has been granted for 2 attempts. So in this kind of a scenario, we're going to use what we call conditional formatting. For an example, I want to format a table and I want to look for duplicate values, right? I can highlight my entire table here. I'm not sure if it's going to be applicable. Or let me just highlight a particular column. Let me just click on employee ID. When I go to my conditional formatting, right, you're going to find what cell rules. So this can be applicable to anything that you want. You want cells that are greater than so and so. You can click on this one, less than, between, equal to, contains or date occurring, and then duplicate values. This is the one I want to talk about. When I click on this, as you can see, I can choose the colors that I want. That's when what happens. Excel is going to what? Show me what all the cells that have duplicate values that have been repeated throughout my entire data. As you can see, I have 10009 and there's also a 10009 here. When I've done this, if I want to sort out my duplicate value, it's still the same thing. I can click on my column header, right? Click on this. I'm going to go to what? My sort and filter. When I go to what? My filter, I click on this icon here. When I click on the filter icon, when I click on it, I'm going to go ahead and do what? Filter by what? By color. As you can see here, once I've done this, automatically what happens, Excel shows me all the information or all the data that have the same duplicate values. And now I can go ahead and delete these duplicate values manually. If I'm working with a large number of data, right? Let's say I have more than 100 and something duplicate values. There is also an automatic way of doing it. Unfortunately, I can't apply it to this particular data because this data is not redundant. They have different values. But there is also a way of doing it. I can just click on this here and go to my custom sort. And I'm going to say sort by last name. And then, so technically, if I was working with student marks, let me just use marks for an example. Let me create a new sheet. I'm just going to type in student numbers. I'm going to type marks. I'm going to type in 2221165. I'm going to try and repeat this, and then I'm going to have a different one. I'm going to try and repeat this, then just a different value. See. Just say 6, 7. I'll just use this to explain further as well. Also, in Excel, let's say I want to delete a row, right? I already have all this information here. Deleting a row means you're taking out all the information. When you use the option of delete, as you can see now, automatically what happens, Excel is going to delete what is in the cells, but now there is going to be a space between this. So what do I rather do? I'm just going to click on the column headers. I select my column headers. And I just right click on it and I delete. Once I delete this, what happens? Excel automatically adjusts the remaining cells to come up and take the continuous numbers. I just want to make an example here. So I'm going to be just deleting these. I just want to have 2 of everything here. 1, 2. Okay, this is still more than 2. So now, for example, we're assuming this is the 2 submission. The first attempt is 50, second attempt is 56. First attempt here is 96, second attempt is 93. And then let me just add 1, 1, 1. So this person's attempt is 5, 6, and 9, 7. So technically now, this can go all the way on and on and on. So I have students data sheets that have more than 1 attempt, and I want to sort out this data. How do I do that? After I'm sorting out my data from A to Z, which is smallest to largest, I'm going to go ahead and do what? Click on this. I'm going to now go ahead and do what? Conditional formatting. As you can see, all these are duplicate values because they have another what? Instance of them in my spreadsheet. When I go ahead, I'm going to do what? Go to click. I go to my custom sort. Now I want to sort by student number. Now I want to add another level, which is by marks. Because I want to take the student that has, I want to take the student attempt that has the highest mark. I'm going to choose from what? Largest to smallest. So remember again now, what I was just trying to do, I'm trying to sort out this data here so I can now remove the duplicate values. When I click on OK, you're going to find out each of the entries, the first one is the student number, and their mark is going to be the highest one. So obviously, I know that the second one is going to be what? The lowest mark, and I don't need the lowest mark. This particular assignment, we need to submit the highest marks. So now the next thing that I'm going to do what? After I've sorted out my data, it has to look like this. So even if this data number is as up to 100, 300, it doesn't really matter. As long as you understand the process. First of all, I need to sort out my column, smallest to largest, and I use a custom sort. And I'm going to apply duplicate values. Applying the duplicate values is just a fail proof. I want to know that after I've removed my duplicate that they don't exist anymore. Now I'm going to click on just a cell here. I'm going to go to my data. You're going to find an option here that says remove duplicates. Once I click on this, I'm going to untick the one that I want, which is what? Student numbers. As you can see now, automatically what happens, Excel removes what? All the student numbers and their lowest values. Automatically, I have only 3 of the students here with their highest marks. So this allows you to sort out a large number of data before you now upload it into your main mark sheet and others and others. So you can go back again when this recording is uploaded and watch the steps I followed. Remember again, you need to sort out your data first, clean out your data, apply conditional formatting, and then go ahead and apply a custom sort. You can just
Mr. Divine? Sorry. There's a question here by Maria in the chat box.
Guys, apologies. The light just went off, so I need to. Sipro, can you just hold down the class? Let me just sort out the connectivity issues.
Okay.
Okay, what will be the question?
So the question is, how do you use that symbol in front of the title? For example, I think it's a caret sign, employee ID or employee ID. This helps identify something about that column. Could you please talk about this option? I think it's the current caret sign. He's saying, how do you use those symbols?
Okay, I'm gonna use a very different data, but I need to understand the question. Which sign is the student talking about?
I'm not quite sure because I think it's the caret sign, because the question says how to use the symbols that you place in front of title. For example, then she put that caret sign, employee ID or employee ID. This helps identify something about that column. Could you please talk about this option? And because I couldn't unmute her to speak because her mic was not audible.
I think it
So-
was they in that where it says employee now. It looks like a filter sign behind the employee.
Yes, that.
I think that is what it's meant. He
Okay,
went
now.
through the.
Yes.
Simply,
Yes.
can you please can you kindly forward me this meeting link so I can join with another computer? I'm sorry guys, like we are really going through the most things so it's a campus.
So what should I do, Mr. Divine?
Please forward me the link of the meeting to my email address so I can join with another device.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yes.
While we are waiting for you, sorry, so it means that whatever you are showing and what I cannot see, it means it's because of the difference between the Excel and 365. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then I need to request that to be updated.
Yes, you can request that to be updated, or you can download the 365 via UJ.
If I'm a staff member.
Oh, you can go to the ICT people. They will update it for you.
Okay, so I just need to request that then. Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Divine. Hello?
I think probably he can hear you.
Yeah.
Raise the
Okay.
chat.
I'll just find a better way to assist him. Can you just give us a few minutes, everything will be sorted out.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry for the delay.
Okay. Apologies, dear colleagues, for that technical glitch. Apologies for that.
Okay. Mr. Divine will be back in a few minutes. Everything is sorted now.
Okay.
Awesome. I think, guys, it's me. I'm just here with a different device. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yes. Apologies for that. And then let me just. How come I can't share my screen? Moderator, can you please make me at least set up to share my screen?
Yes, there we can see the screen.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect.
Before we continue, Mr. Divine, there's a question
Yes,
that
the question.
you have to address.
Yes, in the chat box, yes.
Please read out for me, Sempere.
I'm trying to find the question.
So the question says, can I just read it out for you?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
sure.
Okay. So the question says, my question was how to use the symbols that you place in front of title. For example, then she put, I think it's a caret sign, employee ID or employee ID. This helps identify something about that column. Could you please talk about this option?
Okay, I think I need to see the question myself. Let me go
This is how
to.
to use the symbols that you place in front of a title.
I really don't understand the question because I can't see the previous charts.
I think it's got to do with that filter that you put behind employee.
Okay, the symbol itself.
Yes,
This
that's
here, this particular icon here. So, okay, I told you for you to apply a filter, right? Filter is just when I click on the column header, I go to my sort and filter, right? Can you see? Once I click on this icon here, filter, automatically what happens? Excel gives me this small symbol you're talking about. It means this drop down arrow, right? When you click on it, you can now access all the filters that are going to be applicable. You can sort by largest to smallest. You can sort by color, by sheet view, by number filters, does not require to. So there's a lot of filters here. I hope I am on the right track to answering your question.
Yes, posted the question in the chat box. Maybe you might be able to see the symbol.
Did you post it again? Okay. Yes, it
Yes.
says only solicit. Okay. I really don't understand. How do you place a symbol in front of a title? I think if I'm still not understanding, when you mean like this, putting a symbol like in this kind of way.
Because Maria asked the question, maybe I can ask her to probably rephrase it
Yes.
better so that we may understand the question.
Does
Because
she
she
mean
raised
putting a
it,
symbol
but
like this? Can you guys see my screen? The way I have like a greater than sign here and then first name, is that what she means?
Yeah, I think that's what she's talking about. See, in front of the first name, there's something like an arrow there.
Yes, putting
yes,
a symbol. You just tapping into the name box of what you want to be in a particular cell. So, but I will wait for her to rephrase the question. So technically, everything that I type in here is what I want to be on my title box. So these are not default title headings. These are just empty cells that I just typed something inside. Can you see? So anyways, because of our time, let me just go into the second part of what I wanted to teach today before we end the section. So I'll be talking about, and then just before that, something else is before I proceed, still on sorting out data, right? So we can also have the option of what hiding columns and rows. For an example, I need this information, right? But I only want to see the employee ID, first name and last name. I can click on this column headers and I right click on them and I just choose the option of what? Hide. As you can see now, these information are hidden from my spreadsheet. I can always unhide them if I want to. Something is applicable. I can choose to hide my rows from row this to this. I can highlight my row headers and right click and choose what? Hide. The most important thing you must remember is when you're hiding either a column or a row, you need to click on the column header itself. When you click on a cell and right click, you don't find the option of what? Hiding. You need to click on the column header itself. And then when you hide and when you delete, there's a difference. So as you can see here, I have from A, B, C, and then my D, E, F is missing. If I deleted those columns, Excel automatically adjust my column names. Something is applicable here. From my 1 to 9, and then 9 to 69 is hidden. 10 to 69, it is not deleted. So when you delete a row or a column, Excel automatically does what? Adjust those things. Another thing that we have is adding a column or a row. For an example, by default, Excel adds a new column or a new row to the left. So if I want to add a column after column C, I don't need to click on column C, I need to click on the next one. So let me just click on this option here. When I right click, I can choose to do what? I can unhide everything by just selecting the column header. Simply is applicable here. When I click on this, I click on my row header, I can choose to do what? Unhide. So if I want to insert a new column after column G, I'm not going to click on column G because Excel, remember, Excel inserts columns to the left by default. When I right click on this and I click on what? Insert column. Can you see now? My new column G is going to be empty. So I have to undo this. So if I want to add a new column after column G, I need to click on what? Column H. And when I right click and I click on insert, can you see now automatically what happens? My new column is going to be what? Column H. And then the next one is going to take on the next alphabet. When I delete this, automatically what happens? My next column becomes the new column H. So hiding and deleting are two different things. So that is just that. Then I'll go ahead on talking about calculations. So I also typed out a few things here that we can use to make calculations. So this is the most basic thing and important thing about Excel, being able to sort out data and what? Perform calculations in depth. So we have, from calculations, we have arithmetic calculations that we have using of functions, and we also have using of if, VLOOKUP, and so on and so forth. So I'll quickly run through that. Using of arithmetic functions for in Excel, before you can perform any calculations, you need to insert the equals to sign. So when I click on this, for an example, let me just say total sales. Let me just delete this column. When I click on this, I want to get my total sales. So obviously my total sales is going to be what? My quantity times my unit price. The first thing I'm going to do is put my equals to sign. Click on my cell itself, and then insert the multiplication sign. Click on the next cell. One of the most important things that you need to remember in Excel is cell references, guys. When you're working with Excel, cell referencing is very, very important. Can you see, I don't type in the values. Why don't I type in the values? If I put my equals to sign and say 800 multiplied by 5, I'm going to get a value, right? But the only difference is because I didn't make use of my cell reference, when I click on this icon here and change, let's say my value changes from 5 to 10. Can you see there is no relationship? Excel doesn't understand that I need to change my total sales because I didn't make use of cell referencing. Something is applicable. I can't autofill these or copy this formula all the way down to the next of the cells. So when you're working with Excel, cell referencing is very important because I need to multiply the value that is inside this cell with the value inside this cell. I need to make use of the cell referencing when I'm making my calculation. So when I click on equals to sign, I click on the cell, or I can just type in E2, right? And then multiplied by what? F2. When I click on my enter, can you see now I have a value? Even if I go ahead and change this as much as I want, what happens? Excel automatically does the calculation for me, making my life so much easier. So I don't need to redo the calculations. Next thing I need to do is just click on this cell. There's something we call autofill. Autofill in Excel, you're telling Excel to do what? Copy my previous formulas and apply it to the next of the cells. At the edge of my box, I'm going to find this tiny cross. When I click on this, left click and I drag. This allows me to copy what? A formula all the way down. And because I've made use of cell referencing, even when I go ahead and change another cell, this is now 7, I'm going to change it to what? To 10. What happens? Excel does the calculation for me. I don't need to what? Perform an additional calculation. This makes my life so much easier. Another thing I need to talk about is formatting of cells before I now do a final calculation. When formatting our cells in Excel, it is very important that you tell Excel that you're working with what? Text and what? Values. For an example, let me just delete this. If I put in my equals to sign here, and I'm going to say this multiplied by what? By days. I'm going to get what? A hashtag value error. This is telling me that what? The cells I'm trying to what? To multiply or to perform a calculation are not related. I can multiply a value with what? A text. So you must always remember that when you get a hashtag value, it means what? One of the cells there do not have a value. If I should go ahead and click on this and change it to what? To 56. Can you see now I have what? A value here, because now my calculation is going to what? To be right. I just need to undo this. So whenever you're working with Excel, you need to define your values and your text. And how do you do that? When I click on this is my quantity, right? I can go to my cell formatting here. Under this number section, I'm going to click on this. I want to tell Excel these are numbers. When I go to this, I'm going to the Excel. These are not just numbers. These are what? Currencies. And then something is applicable. I can click on this and go to my formatting painter. I can highlight the rest of my cells, and automatically you're going to find out that you're going to now have the arrow sign. Also, you must also remember, why do we do this? Because we don't type in what values when we're working with numbers. For an example, if I want to do this calculation here, and I chose go ahead to do what, type in R800. When I click on my equals to sign, and I say this multiply by this.
Tena tuchezea, hatuona kintu.
When I click on equals to sign, I'm going to have this. But then the only reason why I have this sign here is because I formatted these cells with the currency sign. But let me use just a random cell, R25. And let's say 5. Let me see. Okay, that is still working fine because these have the currency signs. But please, I would like to advise you rather not, because my spreadsheet is fine, it's been formatted properly, but I always advise do not type in your arrow signs. Just click on the cell itself and go ahead and apply the currency sign. If you don't have this, if you don't have the arrow sign, you can go to more number formats and then click on this symbol here and then look for the currency sign that you're looking for. It's either rands or dollars or whatever it is that you want to apply to your cells. So when I've done this, I can just go ahead and hit apply my formatting painter all the way down. Apply my formatting painter. Now I know now these are now the word values. I can choose to reduce the decimal places to just this or increase the decimal places as the case may be. So this is how you perform your basic calculations in Excel. The most important thing you need to remember is for all calculations to happen, I need to have the equal sign. The thing that I need to have is my cell reference. I don't type in my values. I have to use cell reference because I want that if there is any instance that my values have to change, I don't need to go ahead and perform the calculations. I just need to just change the values in the cell. Same thing is applicable now for functions in Excel, because most of the functions are already there for us to just use. The first thing we have to do again is our equals to sign. And then I'm going to type in my average. And then I'm going to open my brackets. So for all functions, the first thing you do is type equals to sign, the function name, open your brackets, and then I'm going to go ahead and highlight what the range of cells that I need to work with. Once I hit my enter, I'm going to find out the average. So things like functions, range of cells, you need to understand that these are Excel terms. Range of cells is just, these are range of cells from A1 or A2 to H11. These are range of cells. So Excel is just picking the column header and the column what? Column header. So this is cell A2, which is obviously column A, row 2. That's how it is. So when I say A2, I can still go ahead and type it in my name box, column H5. This is going to automatically highlight the entire range of cells for me. We have so many other things we could talk about, but we don't have the time for that, which is defining name functions and so on and so forth. Simply is applicable. All these things here, I can just go ahead and equals to sign. I type my sum. I go ahead and note, highlight my totals, cells, my accounts A, So any of the functions you want to apply, it is going to be the same thing. So that's how you apply most of the functions in Excel. The only difference is different functions have different criteria. And because they have different criteria, you need to make sure that what you are following your function what criteria. For an example, I'm going to look at a complex function, which is called the if function. So most of the time, once again, when you're working with student marks, and then let's say you want to apply a criteria of if a student have done this, they need to get this. We use what we call the if function. I'll be talking about the VLOOKUP and the HLOOKUP later on. The if function, what do I mean by that? For example, we have the profit of the year, right? This is obviously, this is our profit of the year that we've gotten after we have calculated what? Our total sales minus our cost of sales, less the discount, we now have the profit of the year. Now, I want to apply a logical what? Reasoning, because I want to tell Excel, if this profit of the year is greater than what? 200, please type in what? Produce more or produce less. So we're going to use what we call an if function. So technically, in Excel, when I go to my formula tab, because I'm looking for a logical test, I'm looking for if. So this is called what? Your function argument. This is called criteria. So most functions have a criteria, and the only reason we're going to make a mistake in applying a function is because you're not understanding the criteria. Remember again, because if is a logical test, I'm telling Excel, I want to perform these calculations, but I need a specific condition to be met. I'm going to say, what's my logical test? If this profit here is greater than what? 200. And let me just say 250. It means that we have, as a company, we have marginalized, we made profits. I want the value to be true to produce less, to produce more. And then if this condition is not met, it means that what? If this cell here is less than 250, it means what? Produce less. So the only difference between this function and the other functions is because this has a criteria. I need to understand what my criteria is and why do I need to apply this function. That is what I'm doing. I want to apply this function because I want the values here. I want Excel to tell me if the values are more than these. So there is no, there is no exhausted list for this. Anything can be applicable. You can say if the value is this, you can either type a number, you can type a value, whatever it is that you want to be applicable. It is up to you. You are the owner of the spreadsheet. You need to perform for format it however you want. When I click on OK here, can you see I have produced more? When I highlight this all the way down, I have what? Produce more, produce less, because obviously every other value here, they are not greater than what? 250. So if function is used in instances where you need to apply a logical test, there is more advanced levels of if functions and so on and so forth. But you're going to find all those things at a later stage, or if you guys request for them. But in our next session, I'll be focusing more on how to insert your charts, your pivot tables, and how to create a database and all those and others. So as of now, these are the basic functions. The functions remain the same. You can choose to use arithmetic values for an example. Instead of saying the sum of this, I can just go ahead and say equals to sign this. Sorry. This plus this plus this, and so on and so forth. You're still going to now get a value. Instead of doing that, I can use a function. So all these things are here to make our life so much easier. Once again, apologies because we don't have all the time that we have. That's why I'm rushing through this concept, because I would have taken my time to take you guys through entirely everything that is applicable, but the steps do not change. They remain the same. If you can apply an average function, you can apply a sum function. You can apply some function, you can apply what? An if function. It's the same thing. You just need to understand the function arguments and the criteria and the conditions that need to be met. And then yeah, go ahead. Another important thing that you need to understand how to use is your VLOOKUP. This is mostly for stats. When you have downloaded your spreadsheet from Moodle and you want to now transfer the values of those student numbers to the actual mark sheet, we use our VLOOKUP. So how to use a VLOOKUP? For an example, I'm going to, let me just see. Let me just remove the filter here. I'm going to copy this, paste it here. And then I'm going to say, just say, now for VLOOKUP, how do we use a VLOOKUP? So I have this set of values, right? Assuming these are student number, student name. Now I need to find their marks. Now I need to find out for these individuals here with this particular information, I want to get their salary. How do we use a VLOOKUP? So VLOOKUP is vertical lookup. So technically you're telling Excel, look up values that are on the same line. And if they match, please give me this kind of value. So when I go to my salary here, I can go to my formulas. I go to my lookup and references, and I go ahead to my VLOOKUP. Now I'm telling Excel, look up for what? This first person here with this name. We're going to have an error with this spreadsheet because we have a lot of redundant names, which is there is repetitions. There's a lot of Barbara here, but just for explanation purposes, we're going to walk through it as we are proceed. So now this is my lookup value, right? I'm looking up this. This could be a student number. What is the table array? This is which table am I looking for? Where do I need to tell Excel? Where do I need to look for this information? I'm going to go ahead and do what? Highlight this information here. And then I'm going to say column index. Column index is, I'm telling Excel, the information you're looking for is going to be on which column. So I can see my salaries are what on column F. So because I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, actually on column 6, I'm going to type in column 6. And now my range lookup, I'm going to type in false. False is, I'm telling Excel, I want the exact value. When I click on OK, as you can see, we have an error because Barbara is a lot. We have a lot of Barbara in our spreadsheet. Most of the names here are what they're the same. We have repeated them all over the place. But then maybe on our next class, I'll use a clean worksheet to explain how to use a VLOOKUP. So technically, this is the same process because I want this particular person on a specific table and so on and so forth. So I'll create another data that I'll use to explain the VLOOKUP function as in our next session. Just for now, I'm just introducing that to you. And then the other thing that we have is sorting out our sheet. As you can see here, you can actually move around your sheet as you want just by clicking on it. You can click on it and rename it to whatever that you want to rename it. And so on and so forth. You can click on any of these things and right click and delete. And you're going to get a warning that says, if you do this, permanently deleted, that's fine. Just click on that. So at the end of the day, you must always remember your worksheet entirely is yours to handle as you want to. And Excel has a lot of things that could allow you to automate your entire work process. It even goes as far as, coding, which is the VBA, creating your own formulas, how you want them to run, and so on and so forth. So Excel is a powerful tool that you can use to analyze your data, perform calculations, and so on and so forth. And then also something, when working with formulas, as you can see here, most of the times, when I click on this, I can also go to my formula tab, and I can go to what? Show formulas. So it's going to show me exactly what has happened in my spreadsheet. So if I've gotten a spreadsheet and I'm lost on how the calculations were done, Excel can tell me, actually, this was done by doing this, and this was done by doing that. So, and I think I've elapsed on our time. Any questions so far? When's this session supposed to end? Is it an hour session or 2 hour section, moderator?
It's a 2-hour session for both you and Miss Mutao. So I think probably you're gonna take an hour each.
Oh, if it's a 2-hour session, then it's fine. I can finish entirely what I'm doing. I thought it was an hour section.
No, it's a 2 hour. Supposed to finish at 11.
At 11. Awesome.
Yeah.
Simple way. Do you want to take over or questions?
I'll take questions, Mr. Divine, if there's any questions.
Oh, okay. Okay, apologies then. I thought this session was entirely an hour session. So if it's 2 hours means I actually do have time. So for now, before I go ahead again, does anyone have any questions? Do you guys want me to explain anything that I've actually jumped because of our time and explain some details? Is there anything like that?
So at the moment there isn't any questions. Just somebody saying that I learned a lot today. Thank you. In the chat box, there is nothing and there's no hand that is raised. I assume there's no questions and we may proceed. Oh, here's a
Awesome.
question.
There is a hand.
Yeah, here's a hand. Let me just unmute him. Mr. Justin.
It's Justice.
Yes, Justice. Yes. Yes. You may speak, Justice. Yes, I've allowed your mic.
Yes, Justice, you have a question.
Yes, but he's not audible enough as well. But there's a question in the chat box. Meanwhile, maybe we can take the question in the chat box. It says, is it for us to figure out which formulas to use where, or is this taught at undergrad level already?
Okay, it depends on what are you going to do with your spreadsheet. Do you want to find the sum? Do you want to find the average? Do you want to find the mean? Do you want to find the maximum? So it depends what are you looking for. Then you can now pick which formula you want to utilize. Both undergrad or postgrad is still the same.
Awesome. Like you said, so I'll just take you guys through that. So when you go to your formula tab, right, you can see we have functions, auto sum, all kinds of sum, financial formulas. So base, believe, everything that your scientific calculator can do, Excel can do it. So all these here are formulas. Something's applicable here, a logical test. We just I highlighted just a few, date and time references, so math and trigonometry. So actually you can do a lot of things with Excel. Everything is based off on your required. What are you trying to achieve with your spreadsheet? Are you trying to find out something for yourself? Are you working with student values? Are you working for your own presentation or for your own assignments? Are you an accounting student? Are you an accounting firm? Are you trying to find out, you're calculating your profit and loss, financial statements? Everything's entirely up for you to use. You need to decide for yourself how you want to use them. You're looking for it. So there's entirely everything here. It is just based off on your required. If you're a student, you have to follow the required. If the question says, please find average of this, it means you're looking for average function. Does that make sense?
I hope your answers answered Ms. Richa for your question.
It does, however, if you have to assist students with their data analysis, it makes it a little bit more intricate in terms of understanding which stats to perform and how to perform it.
Okay, when you're working with student data, right? You're analyzing student data, for an example. Let me just do this. Let me just say, for an example, like I already told you guys, let's say this is a student data, right? This particular spreadsheet. Working with the student data, as a moderator, let's say I've given the students work to do and I need to understand what they have done in their work, right? Hence, I told you guys on how to use, when you go to the formula tab, When you click on show formulas, you can actually see what the student has done. You know, this is the entire data. I can see the total sales was gotten by multiplying this and this, and this if function here was calculated, didn't, because at the end of the day, for an example, let me just delete this here. If I go ahead and type in produce less, produce more, produce more. So sometimes students are smart. They understand the question, right? The formula obviously asks if this value here is greater than 250, type produce more, produce less. Because they don't know how to access the function, they can just type in, oh, this actually is less than, it means produce less. When you go to your show formulas, can you see here? This tells me that actually this person has typed in the values and they haven't used the correct function. So you can actually see that this was done using a function and this was just typed in. Same thing is applicable. When I click on trace, for example, when I click on this particular cell here, and I click on what? Trace precedent and trace dependent, you can see entirely, Excel tells me this particular total sales here was gotten, these are the precedents, how I got to this, and these particular functions here dependent on this, because this particular cell is part of how I got my average and so on and so forth. So actually in Excel, everything is applicable. From a moderator's perspective, you want to see what your student has done, how they have done it, you can see it. From a student perspective, from a student's perspective, you can also see and also do whatever you're required to do. So that is just how it is done. I hope I answered your question to some extent.
Yes, I hope your question is answered, Ms. Richa. I see there is another question here by Justice. The question says, using the if function, can we choose to use percentages of profit rather than absolute figures of profit? I noticed that products with 12% profit and neglected produce less over products with small profit margins of say 5% or 12% profit margins.
Okay, awesome. The question is perfect. Remember again, right? For my if function, the criteria was defined by me. Do you get me? So when I click on this and go to my formulas and I click on the logical and I go to if, right? I need to define the logical test. During my logical test, I actually said, let me just cancel this. I actually said, right? Let me just click on this again. Logical if I went ahead and said, please Excel, if this cell here, right, is greater than 10%, right, I can choose what I want. Value if true, produce more. You can see, and then let me just adjust my value if false. You can see, right? It really depends on my criteria. I need to define it. We used the total sales instead of using the discount. So I didn't put the discount into consideration. Do you understand? If I need to define what exactly I want to, so the producing more and producing less, it was just an example. You need to define your own criteria. If you don't want Excel to use the 10%, you can also go ahead and say, if this is greater than this, and you can go ahead and there is called nested if function. That's a very much advanced. I'll show you guys on our next class on how to add more logical tests. I can go ahead and say, oh, if it's greater than 10%, if it's also this, if it's also that. So everything is all about what I define in my criteria. If I don't define my criteria based off on the discount, I won't be able to get those values. So if I define it based off on the discount or the profit, what Excel does is just do what I want it to do. So remember again, everything I'm teaching you in this class is not something that is, is not a, how do I put this? It's not a constant. You can change it however you want. You just need to understand how it's done. Then you can apply it to your own specific scenario. What are you trying to achieve? Right now, I'm just trying to teach you on how to use the function. I'm not trying to achieve anything. I'm not trying to make my calculations work perfectly or this to look, I'm not trying to produce this data because I want to use it for work or for anything purposes. I'm not going to be moderated on it. It's just for teaching purposes. So when it comes to you, whatever I'm doing right now, you can take the theory itself, then apply it to your own scenario. That is how it happens. I hope I answered your question.
There is another question in
Yes.
the chat box. It says, please repeat what you did now again with the arrows. I think it was the previous question when you were answering Ms. Rich's questions. I think there were some arrows indicating something. They say, can you
Yes.
just please indicate what were the arrows showing in terms of that? Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, and then in terms of that, I was speaking from a moderator's perspective, right? I have a spreadsheet. I need to understand what has the student done on the spreadsheet. I gave them a group of questions. Now I need to understand whether they follow the steps. And I told you, if, for an example, the question here says this and this, and people might decide to just type in the answer. Let's say they have copied from their friends, they just want to type in the answer because they're in a hurry to submit. They haven't actually done the formulas. What can I do? Let me just edit these last ones and just type it in myself. So I already told you, let's say I'm copying from my friend. I'm just typing, oh, the answer is produce less, produce less, produce more, then produce less. By default, if I don't know how to use my Excel, when I come here and say like, oh, actually the student is right, I give them a tick, 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 and then I move on. But because I know how to use Excel properly, I'm going to go to my formula tab. First of all, right, the first arrow you saw was trace precedent. This here is, I'm telling Excel, how did we come about with this number here? Which calculations has this person done? I see 21,600. Where is it coming from? I don't know. I'm assuming that I don't know anything. I haven't seen anything. I don't agree with anything. I just need to see for myself. Because I'm an accountant, I need to moderate and make sure that the values are actually what it's supposed to be. When I click on this cell here, I'm going to click on what? Trace precedent. Can you see? The first arrow that appears is Excel is telling me, actually, for us to get here, this and this was done. Also, I don't know, was it divided? Was it multiplied? Was it added? I don't know. Hence, I go ahead and do what? Show formulas. As you can see now, showing my formula is going to tell me actually it was multiplied. F2 was multiplied with A2 to get these values. Same thing is applicable. When I click on this cell, I'm going to tell Excel, actually, I know my total sales, right? If I change my total sales, is it going to affect any other calculation on my spreadsheet? Hence, I choose the word trace dependent. Trace dependent is saying I'm telling Excel which other calculations are dependent on this particular value here. When I click on this, can you now see automatically it goes to tell me that for the average formula that we have on this spreadsheet, for the sum, actually, this particular total sales was used for laptops. That is how we also, so if I make any changes to this, it's going to affect these other cells to answer your question now. So when I'm done with that, I'm like, okay, actually, this person followed the right steps. Their calculation is proper. I can see their steps. I can see everything. I can now go ahead and remove my arrows and untick show formulas. Did I answer the question correctly?
Yes, I would like to think it's answered because the person typed the question in the chat box. So yeah, and also Mr. Justice said thank you. The question has been answered perfectly.
Awesome.
So we may proceed.
Yes, we can proceed. And then now we have other things. So that is just that for formula. So remember, there is a lot of things in Excel, and you can learn Excel in 2 sessions. Excel is more of, I always also tell my students, practice really makes perfect when it comes to these kind of things. If you don't practice, you're not going to be able to understand how to do it. And best believe, whatever you want to achieve, It is possible. You just need to follow the steps. And I always remind them that in all instances, right, there's never going to be a point where you felt like the computer is not working properly or it doesn't understand what you want, or if there's an error message, it means you have actually done something wrong. That is always the right thing to think, because at the end of the day, Excel is just there to make your life so much easier, depending on how you use it for yourself. So you need to know how to navigate around Excel to be able to get the best out of it. Now I'm going ahead to talking about, I'll just introduce the charts and the pivot tables. So in Excel, because at the end of the day, the purpose of having an Excel spreadsheet is able to what? To relate to what is going on. I want to relate to what is going on. So at the end of the day right now, because this particular table, there is no relationship between these discounts and profits. I'm just going to do it. I can delete this. Okay, there's a, I just know let me just actually hide it. And then I can also actually just hide this. Now I want to illustrate this product unit price and total sales on a chart. So by default, always remember this in Excel, before I do anything, I need to be working with what? Cell references. What do I need to represent in my chart? I need to present data, right? So the first thing you should do is what? Highlight your data. I need to represent this product, the category, total sales, and so on and so forth. I need to represent all these in my data. Actually, okay, I don't need my dates. I can also go ahead and do what? I can delete this, or I can hide it. And then there's something I need to point out. When you hide cells, for an example, if I highlight all these, Excel actually highlights even the hidden cells. So it's important that you remember that. So when I hide these my cells, Excel is going to highlight even the hidden ones. So the right thing to do is, if I want to select only the product, category, quantity, unit price, and because you can say these are individual columns, I can click on the column header. You hold the control on your keyboard and click on the next one. This ensures that you're clicking on the cells, the columns itself, not even the hidden one. When I do this, I'm selecting both the hidden ones and the ones that are visible. Always remember that. So you need to always analyze your data and look at it and say, oh, actually HBC is here. I can't see D. I can't just do this and I'm choosing my data, because when I input my chart, Excel is going to even show the one that I don't want to show. I have to click on the column headers, my category, my quantity, my unit price, and total sales. Now I have my information. I can go ahead and click on what? My insert chart. So when it comes to inserting of charts, you can insert any chart of your choice, depending on what are you trying to represent in your data, right? I can insert a cluster column chart, line chart, pie chart. I can even insert a combination of charts. So for now, I'll just stick to this one. As you can see here, now I have my data, right? I have all this information here. And you can see category, quantity, unit price, total sales. So in a chart, these are called legends. All these here, these are all what part of what happens in your chart. These are called legends. So when you're working with a chart and you're working with an object, so whatever I'm going to tell you right now is applicable to all Microsoft Word Office packages. Once you're working with an object, it is always important to understand that the object is going to be what? Independent of what is going on around it. When I click on this object, as you can see, when I click on an empty cell, can you see that I don't have my object toolbar? But when I click on my object itself, I'm going to find this object toolbar. This allows me to work with my object independently. I can format this object as the way I want. I can change the design. I can change my chart type. I don't want the cluster column anymore. I want a pie chart. I can choose to do that automatically. I can still change it back as much as I want. I can format my chart. I want to change the style. I want to apply a shape fill. All those things are going to be applicable to my chart. I need to change the size. So any of those things is applicable. Simply is applicable on when I click on this chart, right, and I go to my chart design, I can go and add a chart element. These are all chart elements that are applicable. You want to add a title. As you can see, primary horizontal, you want to add a chart title as well. It's going to show me here. I can edit this and type in whatever I want. I can still go ahead and do what? Change my
to become what? On the horizontal above chart. So you see, that is just how you work with charts. And then there is always a common mistake that people do when they're working with charts, trying to navigate your chart by yourself. For an example, if I want to move my chart title to the left-hand side, we see it is the wrong way of doing it, because this particular chart title, even though I can move it, the chart itself is not simultaneously adjusting to the movement of my, mouse clicking. So I can adjust it to wherever I want on this. But if I want this chart title to appear vertically and for Excel to adjust everything on my chart, I have to use this option here. Or I go to my chart title, I can choose what centered, overlaid, above chart, and so on and so forth. So you need to always remember that each time you're working with your chart element, make sure that you're using the right tool to move around your chart element. I'm just going to delete this chart and insert another one. We're on hide. And just delete these. I'm going to use a pie chart this time around. So something is applicable. Now we have charts. So in this section for pie charts, you're going to have all your information represented on the chart, right? Because these are all individual charts, I can choose to do what we call a pie explosion. So when you click on any of this pie, I can actually explode this pie and take out a section of itself. However, so remember again, guys, everything in working with charts is just that it depends on exactly what are you trying to achieve. Whatever I'm showing you right now, I'm just showing you for educational purposes. You need to apply it to your own scenario, in your own context, however you want to apply. You want to show this chart, you want to tell people that actually, this is my biggest, as you can see, this is my biggest sales for the year. That's why it's like this. However that you want to do it, it is up to you. For now, you're just learning how to navigate Excel entirely. You can change your chart however you want to make it. If you're a student, you're doing your own research program, you need to make your charts look good, however that you want, you can do that. All these are applicable. I can add with more chart elements. I want my data labels to be inside out, outside end, best fit, data callout. Anything is applicable. Actually, anything. It is just up to you on how do you want your data to be presented. You want it to look like this, you want it to look like that, entirely up to you. And then most times, as a postgrad student, I always advise to move your chart to a next sheet. So when I click on my chart, you can see I can click on this option here on my chart design, move to a new location. I can click what? To a new sheet. I can name it what? Chart. As you can see now, this my chart is going to be on an entire sheet altogether by itself. This allows your data to look neater. So when I have my information here, if the person wants to see my chart, they can go over to this side and look at my chart. That's entirely everything about charts. Next thing that we have in charts, it's still what? Pivot tables. Pivot tables. Pivot charts are still charts, and it's a more advanced chart. For an example, I can click on this. I can select my table range, and I can click on what? New worksheets. Click on OK. Can you see I have my pivot table? So if you've heard about things called like creating a database and so on and so forth, this is how you actually do it. But then I will show you guys more in details on how this actually works. This is more advanced level. For now, I'll just press and ask again, do we have any questions? Any questions so far about charts? Any questions?
Yeah, there's a question by Ms. Risha. I see he has a hand up.
Yes.
Thank you. So when you've saved that chart now, how do you then export it to a Word document? Do you then just cut and paste?
So what document? It actually depends. In Word, actually, you can actually insert a chart in Word. I wouldn't advise cutting and pasting, because when you cut and paste a chart from Excel to Word, right, you can't make changes to your chart if you choose, you
Yes.
wish to make changes. Yes. So,
Yeah.
so let's say I'm in Microsoft Word. Let me just click on File and New, right? I can actually insert a chart. You can see. A chart. I can actually choose which one of chart that I want to insert, right? Automatically in Microsoft Word gives you this more Excel dialog box. Can you see? You can now
Yes.
use this information to adjust it. You can now change it to student. You can now say maths.
But you can't. The one that you've just done in Excel.
You can actually import it. You can actually copy it and paste it in Excel. But I just told you, for an example, when I just go to my charts and when I click on this, right, I can copy my chart. When I go to my Word document, I can paste my chart.
Yeah.
And then when you double click on your chart, you can now
You can't do anything.
Hold on. Let me just go to. You can click on edit data, yes. Once you click on edit data, right, it's going to now take you all the way to your Excel for you to edit your data.
Okay.
Yes. So it is applicable. It allows you, because at the end of the day, you can always edit these data. And it's going to take me back to Excel. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes, it takes me back to Excel. So if you're working in what's it called? You can click on edit data or edit data in Excel. So I can just click on edit data here. It takes me to Excel. I can also click on edit data in Excel, and it's going to open Excel as well. It's still the same thing. But I always advise, if you're working in Microsoft Word, you can use the option of insert chart in Microsoft Word, and then it's going to give you the same data label columns, right? And then you can insert your own labels as much as you want. It's also very nice. However that you wish to do it, it is up to you to do that. It's actually entirely possible. Are you fine?
Yes, thank you.
And then I'll just that is just that. So I was talking about the pivot table and database. So there is a lot of things when it comes to pivot table and database, and I think entirely I'll focus on it in second sections. If you guys want me to go into that details on how to use a pivot table, on how to create a database, analyze your database, and so on and so forth. Go into that on our next session. As of now, let me just touch upon every other thing that I missed out on. Another thing that we have in Excel, right? Now I'm just referring to back things that I missed out on because I thought we don't have time. The things we'll have is now still working with data, right? I'll be talking about how to merge and center and how to do every other thing. So for an example, I want these two cells to become the same thing. Or let me just type in a new cell. Because I have these, right? And I want I and J to become one. I can highlight both of the cells. Under my alignment tab here, I can click on what? Merge and center. Can you see? What happens? It automatically Excel merge the two cells to become one. So now when I apply any formatting, I'm applying the formatting to both I and J simultaneously. So when I adjust J, automatically it's also adjust because now, remember again, these two cells are now become one because I've merged and center. Difference is when I click downwards, as you can see, these cells are going to still become independent of each other until I actually highlight everything here. Or the best way of doing it is just do what? Highlight your column headers, both of them, and I click on what? Merge and center. Can you see now? Automatically, everything here has become one cell. So whatever I apply to this is now applicable to I and J. That is how you merge and center. Next thing that we have is our clear all formatting. This allows us to clear, as you can see, I can highlight this. I can choose to remove the formatting styles. And I told you formatting is just any style that you've applied to a specific cell, whether it's heading style, whether it's cell style, whatever it is, borders. That is also that. Another thing I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do what? Most of the time, after you clean out your data and you want to insert charts, pivot tables, create a database, the best advisable thing to do is convert your text into what? Into tables. This allows you for easy access, and it removes a lot of errors. For an example, I have this entire information here, right? Let me just go ahead and turn off the conditional formatting. I can select entirely my column headers, right? I'm going to go ahead and click on what? Insert table. And see, now I have this has become a table. Because I've inserted a table automatically, all these are going to appear for me. I can change my table style. As you can see, anywhere I click on my text, it's going to give me the option of what? Changing my table style. And like I already told you, because anything that you insert or any additional object is independent, it's going to have its own toolbar. So when I click on this, automatically what I'm going to have is my table toolbar. When I click on my table design, I can choose to change this however that I want. As you can see, I have changing the table style. I can export my table. I can summarize with a pivot table. I can remove duplicates. I can convert to range. Anything is applicable. I can insert a slicer. This is used when you're creating a database. Whenever you click on any of them, it shows you whatever exactly that you want. So all these are applicable. Let me just do this. So all of these are applicable as long as you put your information in a table. This also makes it so much easier for you to export your data. You can just click on this and just go to table design, and then you're going to click on what? You're going to click on export table. So you can export this table to SharePoint list, or whatever it is that you want to have. So this also makes your data look neater. And then it's easier for you to just click on it and look for whatever you want. I want to look for all information about 2023. Applicable. It looks neater and much, much better. And then moving on from that, another thing that we have that is also important is, let's see, my insert tab. And then, okay, let me talk about the page layout. Awesome. This is now where we're talking about what our margins, orientation, size, print area, backgrounds, and so on and so forth. Because by default, we're going to have our normal margins. So margins just indicate how much space you require when you're printing out the document, right? And then you can choose, for an example, when I go to my file and I go to my print, this is my print preview. You can see the spaces at the edge of these indicates how much margins that I have. I can change this to a wide margin, can you see? Or I can change this to a narrow margin. It means my information is going to be balanced out all throughout the paper, right? So these margins just indicate how do you want the information to look on the paper that you're printing out. You can also change from A4 to A5, as the case may be. You can also change your orientation from portrait to landscape, as the case may be. This is entirely up to you. Another thing that we have that is also important is my print area, because Excel allows us to do anything, actually, absolutely anything that we want. So I want to print this, my document, right? But I want to exclude the rest of the pages. I just want to print from 1 to 15. You can't do that in Microsoft Word. You have to select a specific text and put it in a specific page. All I can do is I can just highlight this. I want to print from 1 to 22. I can go ahead and do set print area. Once I set a print area, as you can see, this entire region is now my print area. When I go to my file, when I go to my print, you can see the only information that is going to be here is only what is in my print area. Every other thing in Excel is excluded. Only my print area is going to be there. I choose this to normal, and then you can see we have an additional page. We can also fix that. Next thing that we have is our page break view, right? In Excel, you can also adjust how much information you want to show on your page. How do you do that? When I go to the bottom of my screen here, I can find what my page break preview. This here indicates to me that Excel counts from this point to this point as my page 1. And automatically you can see my page 1 is just my print area. I can adjust this so that even the group admin column can become a page 1. So when I go back to my normal view and I go to my file and I go to my print, you can now see I have everything on the same page. Still on that section. So you can also show exactly, I can also click on this. I go to my print area. I can click on what? Clear print area. Once I've done this, it means that what? There is no specific thing I want to print now. Everything is applicable again. I have all this information here that I can print as much as I want. So if you don't want to have excess pages when you're printing out your document, you can go to your page break preview, right? And then you can go ahead and look at where your page ends, and you can just close the rest of the pages. So I'm just adjusting my pages. Obviously, there's a faster way of doing this, which is I just go ahead to when I go to my print, my file layout, and I go to print, I can just choose print what? Print active pages only. Or I can just click on print selection, and I can now print from page 1 to 5. And then that is just that. It's going to just show me entirely the pages I want to print. So another thing that we have is our scaling. Also, when I go to my page layout, I can change how my document appears on my page. So I can change this from to 100, right? You can see the difference when you go to your print. And you see active pages, and then you can fit to one page. You can say no scaling. Entirely however that you want. You can choose your scaling option. You can fit to one page, multiple pages. You can change your print quality. You can change your paper size. All those things are going to be applicable. You can also add, you can change your margins. You can also add a header and a footer. You can do all this from your page layout. And then you can also take out your grid lines or view your grid lines if you want to. So everything here is going to be applicable as well. This is a general tab. Even in Microsoft Word, you're going to find this page layout tab, and this allows you to have all other options that we already been talking about right now. You can also change the theme of your Excel document. I want to apply a different theme. Themes are just custom designs that have already been created for you to just use however that you want. You can adjust it. They all come with their custom colors, custom font size, and so on and so forth. And then that is just that. And then on our home tab, you can also insert things. You can change your font size, your font types, bold, underline. You can also apply page borders. I can apply a border to this line by just highlighting my range of cells. I go to my home tab here. I go to what? Any border of my choice, all borders, outside borders, more borders. I can click on the more borders option. If I want to apply another border style, I can click on what? Any of these styles that I want to be applicable here. I can change the colors. Any of these things are going to be applicable. You're going to learn more about text and formatting text in Microsoft Word, but it's the same concept. It's the same concept. Formatting of text is the same concept, both in Microsoft Word, both in Excel, both in PowerPoint. Something that we have here with alignment, you can also choose to align your text however that you want in your cells. It is entirely up to you how you want to align your text. You can also choose to indent, wrap text, and all that. And then, let me just see what else haven't I just covered. need to teach everything. And then there's something else I also need to show, especially for staffs. Right now, when you download your reports from Moodle, right? Because you find out that you can't edit some of the things because you have things like text to columns. For an example, let me see if I don't have an actual document I can use for that. Or maybe I will show us more in details in our next class. I'll leave it for next class. I can have a proper document. So text to columns allows you to convert specific things. For an example, you have a group of numbers that was written as text and you imported it into Excel. You can't perform your calculations anymore because those things have been converted as text. You can convert those text to numbers using the text to column option. I'll show us that in our next class using an actual workbook so that it's going to be much easier. At this point, I think I'll just want to take questions and any other thing that is applicable because I think I've covered entirely all the basics that I have for today's class. And in our next class, I also think I will go into more details into our formulas and functions before I go into our pivot tables and database. And then please do send in your requests of the things that you think you want us to cover in the next class that you think are going to be beneficial. Because at the end of the day, you know what you want out from Excel. You know how you want to apply it in your line of work, whether you're a student, your staff, you know how you want to use Excel and exactly what you need to understand. So you can send in those requests and we're going to look at it in our next class. For now, do we have any questions? Any further questions?
There is no question in the chat box. There is no hand that is raised. Yeah, you may proceed.
Well, I think if there is no further questions, I don't have anything further that I want to reiterate on. I'm just saving everything else for when next we meet. So for today, we covered entirely everything about analyzing your data. Sorry. Did someone say something?
No, I don't think there is any questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for today, we covered everything about analyzing your data, adjusting your columns to fit your text, adjusting your text to fit your columns, how to sort out, and how to delete, and how to hide, and how to insert a chart, how to perform basic calculations. So like the moderator already said, this session was recorded. You can refer back to the videos when they're being posted to understand anything further. And then, like I already said, please sit down, think about everything that you have heard, think of how you're going to apply it to your own Excel, because at the end of the day, Excel is going to be as good as you make it. That's how computing is. Excel becomes as easy as you make it and as hard as you make it. The more time you spend trying to perform these things, trying to understand it, the more advanced you're going to get, because if you don't practice and try to understand things, you're going to have a difficult time going through it. So you need to sit down again, have your own random data spreadsheet that you want to use to work in. Try performing the basic things that you think you actually need from Excel from time to time. Try performing those tasks. See if you run into any issues and any of those things, and note them down, and then bring it to our next class and we're going to tackle it together. And in the absence of any other questions, I think that's actually all from me for today.
In that sense, then, if there isn't any questions, then I think this will be the end of our session. And lastly, I would like to express my gratitude to all the students, staff members, and all the colleagues that attended, and the facilitators, Mr. Divine and Mrs. Mtaung, for their hard work and efforts. And thank you so much for supporting the RCD unit. And we're hoping to see you in the next training workshops. And thank you so much for all the attendees. And please don't forget to sign the feedback form that I've sent the link into the chat box. So please sign that for us so that we can get feedback, as it is valuable for us as well, and for the facilitators' feedback. So thank you so much again, and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Thank you so much.